Hello, friends. So, I'm just sharing my experiences, knowing that I am not an individual component trying to struggle through other things. It's just one web, one unfolding, and this unfolding is perfect. It is exactly fulfilling its innate harmony every moment, progressing and progressing into its next and next exploration. So, knowing that, there's the experience of operating day to day in the real world, and ineptitude happens, what looks like ineptitude. So here's an example. I work at a hospital, and I'm in an ultrasound department. We service the inpatients, but we also service several other departments: the ER, the OR, interventional radiology, labor and delivery, and some outpatients. So there's definitely need for the three machines that we usually have, but they've all been falling apart, and so we've had many, many repairs of all three of them with an understanding that they are not lasting. They're over 10 years old. Usually they would have a life of 5 to 7 years. Well, it has now happened that one of them completely is irreparable, and another one can only do about a fifth of the exams that we do. So essentially have one functioning machine with demands from all these departments. Now, I could look and say there's somebody to be blamed here, because sometimes there's a long wait for urgent calls coming in and we can't respond to everybody. So it would look like we can blame the people who didn't authorize the purchase of a new machine, or we can blame people for being impatient. It's just one of those situations where what we thought was going to happen is not happening. How can this actually be turned as an opportunity to more deeply experience this infinite aliveness that I am? So, in this case, I'm going to use the Byron Katie inquiry. She calls it the work. So, first, I just really get down to what is it that I'm believing that makes the situation seem like, well, given this, I would assess it as not good. So the fundamental belief is we should have the tools for our job. That seems like a that's like a given. We should have the tools for our job, right? That is that a belief? Well, it turns out that is a belief, because what we have is what we have. That's reality. The commentator can imagine another scenario, can imagine something different, and decide that that other is better. But that commentator is actually creating an illusion that I can separate out from this that I am and pretend like I know something separate. Really, what is always the manifesting of this that I am. So, what can I learn more about this that I am in this scenario? So, the belief is I think that we should have the tools that we need. Now, when I have that belief, next question is what happens? How do I feel? What interactions do I make? Well, I look at the world, I see that's not what we have, and I feel frustrated, tense, constricted. I feel, and then there's blaming, blaming to the people who would keep requesting new machines, blaming to the people who are impatient, blaming just, and there's a, not only tension in my body, but just a dissatisfaction when I go and come from work. Now, obviously, that's not reality. So this is this is a sense of an identity. I wanted to be the one who does my job productively. I wanted to be the one who, you know, contributes and goes home with a completed task list. That's not what I am. I am this unfolding. So it's that disregard for what I actually am that is causing all this tension. I am disregarding the reality and pretending like it's reproachable. It should be better. But this reality is the reality that is unfolding. So I just look and see, okay, when I'm believing it should be any other way, there's immense suffering, or suffering, I guess. Other things could be more. Now, the next thing is, what if I didn't have that belief? Just to notice, not to make this any kind of a requirement, but what if I didn't have that belief? Just notice what would be the impact. And immediately there's just openness and curiosity. If I had no pre-existing assumption that work should look like a productive flow of responding to all of our assignments with our 3 machines. If I didn't have any belief about that, I just showed up, we have 1 machine, and we just go through the list apparently and negotiate. We're going to be late to this, we're going to get that done, this will be postponed tomorrow, whatever. There would just be discovery. There would be curiosity. So much more relaxation and ease. There's still the focus to be as effective and efficient as I want to be naturally. There's no effort in that. But there's just a discovery. Oh, okay, this person's being delayed. Maybe they're upset. Maybe there's a consequence. Okay, what can be done? There's just curiosity and openness. And the whole system relaxes, and I leave work like, wow, that was an adventure. No evaluating. It's such ease. So that's what happens when I don't have that belief. Okay, so now we go into, am I certain that this belief is true? No. It's a consensus idea, but it is just that. It's a concept. There's no fundamental truth to it. Now, are there other possible ways of experiencing this situation? Other possible viewpoints that might be equally true? So, what about the exact opposite? I shouldn't have the tools I need to complete the tasks in my job. I shouldn't. Well, here's an interesting thing. Because of this, we're doing a lot more negotiating with all these departments. We're slowing down our pace. There's people who aren't getting helped from us. The doctors are having to rely on other kinds of assessments. It's really interesting how it's pulling in new interactions, new discussions, new resources. It actually is establishing another network of relationships. That's fascinating. Maybe some of these relationships, or all of these relationships, are more important than just, going through the task list like normal. In fact, given the fact that these are what's happening, these additional negotiations and discussions with each department, maybe this interconnected, working it out is more important. That kind of flips my idea about reality, right? Reality is emphasizing and flowing energy into this realm, into this arena of negotiating rather than the efficient model that we all had established before. That's a relaxation. Is there another way to turn this around? Well, I should have all the tools. I shouldn't have all the tools. I do have all the tools. I do have the tools I need. Okay, so one machine is all we really need. For what needs to happen, for the people who need to be helped in a prompt manner, we have all the tools we need. The others apparently don't need to be helped as quickly or in this particular way. So this is what sufficiency can look like. Maybe somebody is in pain even longer. Maybe somebody is bleeding even longer, has an infection even longer, all the things that we can help with. Wow. So these things that look like suffering, that look like they're being extended, maybe they belong. In fact, given that they're actually happening, they do belong. And one thing I've noticed, every time I've suffered, the strength to make it through the next moment has arisen. And I discover that deep in my being is a vibrancy, a sustaining, persistent energy, a force that is stronger than I knew I had. When we're leaning on other people, leaning on expectations, we often don't even notice this deep inner resource we have. In fact, that comes up in so many ways. When I think I need approval from someone else, or I think I need assistance from someone else, or anytime that I think there's an outside need that I think isn't being met, if I just sit when apparently it's not going to be met and notice what arises, I keep discovering this inner strength I had no clue was there. So perhaps all these people who, their service is getting delayed in their health care, maybe there's an inner resource that they're discovering, or that's at least arising for them to notice or not in their awareness. Wow. Of course, we want to help as much as we can, but what remains is each individual experience of this available noticing of what we are. And I have to say, in all of life, there's nothing for me that has turned out to be more important. Yeah, I like taking care of my body. I like meeting my responsibilities. I like supporting my family and friends, but none of that is as important for me as knowing what I am. And I'm not going to steal from other people the situations where that is apparently what's up for them. I'm going to allow that. And with that comes this grace, this sense of, wow, what we are is showing up for me, showing up for everyone. So the natural kindness that flows forth is going to flow forth as much as it can. But where the situation is left in their hands, it's good. Really, truly good. And now I see it's like a shimmering around every event, a shimmering where every event is just calling me to see the innate harmony that we are, and calling everyone to see the innate strength and vitality and perseverance that this infinite being is. Wow. So, I'm grateful. I don't even regret that the machines aren't working. I'm grateful. I can see the perfection now. And of course, there's the moving forward, doing what can be done to see if we can get approval for more machines. That there's a gratitude that this experience is happening exactly as it is. It's radiance. It's brilliant. It couldn't be better any other way.